She was invisible to everyone, even to the billionaire she worked for. But the moment he overheard her whisper, "I'm free tonight, my love," everything inside him changed, and what he did next will leave you breathless. Stay tuned, because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Ariana Blake had always believed life rewarded noise, loud people, bold personalities, confident talkers. But she was none of these things. She was calm, quiet, soft-spoken, and almost invisible in the tall glass building called Coleman Industries, a place where everyone wanted to be seen. Every morning, she arrived before sunrise, long before the expensive cars started rolling in. The lobby was always silent when she walked through, her small heels tapping softly against the shiny floor. She loved the quiet moment. It was the only time the building didn't feel overwhelming. At her desk on the 23rd floor, she arranged files neatly, turned on her computer, and prepared the workspace for the senior executives. She didn't rush. She didn't complain. She simply worked with gentle dedication. But no matter how much she did, Ariana never attracted attention. People walked past without looking up. Some even forgot her name and called her assistant. "Hey you," or "excuse me." She smiled politely every time. The only person who remembered her name, and even then, only for official reasons, was her boss, Billionaire CEO Adrian Cole. Adrian was everything Ariana was not. Tall, confident, intimidating, and always dressed like he was going to a world business summit. His presence could silence an entire hallway. Yet he hardly spoke to her beyond short commands. "Print these. Send this report. Call me when the meeting is ready." Ariana always responded with the same gentle tone. "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." To him, she was an efficient worker. To her, he was a distant storm she didn't dare understand. That morning, however, something unexpected happened. Ariana's phone rang as she placed a stack of documents on her desk. She glanced at the caller ID and smiled instantly, something no one at work had ever seen. It was a warm, tender smile, the kind that softened her features and made her eyes glow a little. She whispered, "Hello." Her voice was lighter than usual, sweet and affectionate. "Wait, slow down," she giggled softly. "You're talking too fast." She turned away from her desk slightly, thinking she was having a private moment. She didn't know that Adrian was walking behind her and slowing down as soon as he noticed her expression. Ariana continued, "Yes, don't worry. I'm free tonight, my love." Her words were gentle, almost musical. And that was the moment everything changed. Adrian froze mid-step. He didn't mean to listen. He didn't even understand why his body suddenly stopped. All he knew was that those 3 words, "I'm free tonight, my love," struck him harder than a punch. He looked at Ariana with new eyes, eyes that actually saw her for the first time. Her soft smile, her warm tone, her relaxed posture, the sweetness in her voice. Adrian felt something twist in his chest, a sharp, unfamiliar tightening. Jealousy. Real, raw jealousy.
Since when does she talk like that?
Who is she calling my love? Why does she sound so happy for someone else? He didn't like the feeling. He didn't even understand it. All he knew was that someone, somewhere, had a version of Ariana he had never seen, and that bothered him far more than it should have. Ariana ended the call, completely unaware of the emotional storm happening just a few feet away. She turned around to return to her desk, and found Adrian staring at her. Not with anger, not with confusion, but with an emotion she couldn't recognize. For the first time since she started working there, she hesitated. "Sir, is everything okay?" she asked quietly. He blinked, as if waking from a dream.
"Yes.
I was just passing by." But his voice wasn't steady, and his eyes weren't calm. Ariana nodded politely and sat down. Adrian walked away slowly, trying to regain control of his thoughts, but the damage was done. The image of her gentle smile, the sound of her calling someone my love, the strange heat rising in his chest, All of it stayed with him, refusing to fade. He didn't know it yet, but from that moment, Ariana was no longer invisible. Not to him. Never again. From the moment Adrian walked back into his glass office, he knew something inside him had changed. He stood by the wide window, looking down at the busy city below, but his mind was not on business, numbers, or deals. It was on one simple scene he could not forget. Ariana standing by her desk with a soft smile on her face, saying in a gentle voice, "I'm free tonight, my love." Those words kept echoing in his head. He tried to push the thought away. This is ridiculous, he told himself. She is just an employee. Her personal life is none of my business. But his heart did not agree. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. Every time he tried to focus on work, he heard her voice again. A knock on the door pulled him out of his thoughts.
"Come in," he said.
His assistant, Nathan, stepped inside with a tablet in his hand. "Sir, the finance team is ready for the morning meeting," Nathan announced. Adrian straightened his suit jacket and nodded.
"Good.
Let's go." But as he walked out of his office, his eyes went straight to Ariana's desk. She was typing, focused on her computer screen, her hair slightly falling over one side of her face. The calm, serious expression had returned, so different from the soft smile he had seen earlier. He didn't realize he was staring until she looked up. Their eyes met for a brief second. Ariana quickly lowered her gaze and continued her work. Adrian cleared his throat and forced himself to walk away. The meeting room was filled with senior managers, charts, and numbers flashing on a large screen. Normally, Adrian handled such meetings with sharp attention. He was known for catching the smallest mistake in a report. But today was different. As the head of finance spoke, Adrian's mind drifted again. Does she live alone? Did her love pick her up after work? Did she dress up for him? Sir? Adrian blinked. Everyone in the room was looking at him. Is the projection acceptable? The finance had repeated nervously. Should we continue with this plan? Adrian realized he hadn't heard a word of the explanation. He picked up the report, scanned the last page quickly, and forced his mind back to reality. Yes, he said in a calm tone. But adjust marketing spending for the second quarter. Put more focus on digital campaigns. Send me a revised version by tomorrow morning. The managers nodded in relief. The meeting continued. Outwardly, Adrian looked normal. But inside, he was restless. By lunchtime, the feeling had not gone away. He walked past the open office area and saw Ariana placing documents into labeled folders. Her movements were careful and neat. She didn't talk much to other staff, but she always replied kindly when someone asked for help. He noticed the small things he had never paid attention to before. She always used a blue pen, never black. She arranged pens by height in her holder. She kept a tiny potted plant on her desk, its leaves fresh and green. She drank tea, not coffee. He caught himself staring again. Nathan, standing beside him with a notebook, followed his gaze and raised an eyebrow slightly. "Something wrong, sir?" Nathan asked quietly. Adrian straightened.
"No."
Nothing at all. But it was a lie. He was not used to feeling curious about someone's life. Usually, he only cared about people's work performance and loyalty to the company. Personal details never interested him. Yet with Ariana, he suddenly wanted to know everything. Who called her in the morning? Where did she go after work? Did she laugh more when she wasn't here? Had someone already stolen her heart? The last question annoyed him the most. Later that afternoon, Ariana walked to the printer beside his office. The machine was making a soft humming sound as it pushed out warm sheets of paper. She waited patiently, reading a page in her hand. Adrian watched her from inside his office through the glass wall. He saw her blow a small piece of hair away from her face, and he felt that strange tightening in his chest again. He couldn't take it anymore. He stepped out of his office. "Ariana," he called. She turned quickly, surprised. "Yes, sir? Can I speak with you for a moment?" he asked, his voice calm but his heart racing. "Of course," she said, putting the papers into a neat pile and following him. She entered his office and stood in front of his desk, fingers loosely holding the documents. She waited quietly. Adrian, on the other side, realized something. This was the first time he had called her in just to talk, without a clear work instruction. For a brief moment, he didn't know how to start. He glanced at the window, then at her. "You've been working hard these past weeks," he said finally. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. "Thank you, sir," she replied softly. "You handled the client files well," he added. "I noticed." Her eyes widened a little. "You did?" Adrian almost smiled.
Yes.
"I pay attention." Those words made her cheeks warm. Ariana wasn't used to being noticed, especially not by him. "I appreciate it, sir," she said. There was a short silence. He could have let her go. The conversation could have ended there. But the question that had been burning in his mind all day pushed its way up again and turned into something else on his tongue. "Are you feeling okay?" he asked. "You seem different this morning." She shifted her weight slightly. "Different?" He nodded.
Yes.
"Distracted, maybe." Ariana looked down for a moment, remembering the phone call. "I hope I didn't disturb anything with my call earlier," she said quickly. "I'm sorry if I was too loud." "You weren't loud," he said. She looked at him, surprised. For a second, their eyes met again. Something unspoken passed between them, his new awareness of her, her confusion about his sudden attention. "I just wanted to check," Adrian continued, a bit more carefully. "If you're okay. If you need time off or anything." Ariana shook her head gently. "I'm fine, sir." "Really?" Another pause. He knew he had no right to ask anything personal, but the thought of her leaving the office to meet someone special made his heart feel heavy. "Still," he said, forcing his voice to sound casual, "you don't need to stay late today. Finish what you can and leave early." She frowned slightly. "Leave early? But we have the quarterly files." "I'll have Nathan handle the rest," he interrupted. "You've done enough today." Ariana studied his face, trying to understand. He was not angry. He was not cold. He seemed thoughtful, almost gentle. "Thank you, sir," she said quietly. "I appreciate that." She turned to leave, but he spoke again. "Ariana." She looked back. "Yes." His eyes softened for a brief second. "Have a good evening," he said. It sounded simple, normal, ordinary. But to her, it felt strangely personal. And to him, it felt like the beginning of something he didn't yet have a name for. That evening, Adrian stayed in his office longer than usual. He told everyone he had work to finish, but the truth was different. He found himself walking to the window and looking down at the parking lot. He saw Ariana come out, holding her small handbag, her hair slightly lifted by the evening breeze. She checked her phone and smiled. That same soft, beautiful smile. He watched as she walked toward the gate and disappeared from his view. A question sat heavy in his chest. Who are you smiling for? He didn't know it yet, but that question would not let him rest. For the first time in his life, the billionaire who had everything felt like he was missing something important. And that something was quietly walking out of the building each day, unnoticed by everyone except the one man who suddenly could not stop thinking about her. Adrian barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ariana smiling at her phone. Every time he rolled over in bed, he wondered who she spent her evening with. By morning, the questions in his head were too loud to ignore. When he arrived at the office, he walked through the hallway with his usual confident steps, but his mind was anything but calm. He kept replaying one thing. Ariana, smiling softly as she read a message. He didn't like the picture. Not because it was wrong, but because it wasn't meant for him. Ariana arrived 15 minutes early, as always. She wore a simple light purple blouse and black skirt, her hair tied neatly at the back. She greeted the security guard, arranged her desk, and prepared her task list for the day. She had no idea Adrian had already walked past her floor twice. Not because he needed anything, but because he wanted to see her. And somehow, she didn't notice. This made his chest feel tight, a strange mix of annoyance and disappointment. When she finally looked up and their eyes met, Adrian felt a sudden wave of relief, as if he had been waiting for that tiny moment. Ariana gave a polite smile. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning." His reply came out a little too quickly. She blinked, surprised, but didn't comment. Hours passed, but Adrian could not focus. He wrote the same email 3 times. He signed 2 documents, without actually reading them. During a board call, he sounded distracted, and even Nathan noticed. "Sir," Nathan whispered, "are you okay today? You seem off." Adrian cleared his throat. "I'm fine." But he wasn't. Not even close. His gaze kept drifting to Ariana. Every time she moved, every time she tilted her head at her screen, every time she tucked her hair behind her ear, something inside him reacted. He was no longer thinking like a CEO. He was thinking like a man who was suddenly afraid of losing something he had never even owned. By afternoon, he reached his limit. He needed to know. Not because he wanted to control her life, but because he could not stand the mystery anymore. He waited until she went to the printer again, holding freshly printed documents. She was alone, focused.
Come.
It was the perfect moment. Adrian stepped out of his office. "Ariana," he said gently. She turned, blinking in surprise. "Yes, sir?" "Come inside for a moment," he said. "Please." She followed him, unsure of what was happening. Once inside, he closed the door behind them, not angrily, not loudly, just quietly enough to show this conversation mattered. Ariana stood near his desk, waiting. She wasn't afraid, but she sensed something different in him. Adrian walked around the table, then stopped directly in front of her, leaving only a polite distance between them. For a moment, he didn't speak. He was choosing his words carefully. Finally, he asked, "Ariana, may I ask you something personal?" She stiffened slightly. Personal?" "Yes." Her fingers gently touched the edge of the documents she was holding. I suppose so. What is it, sir?" He took a breath. "Yesterday morning," he began slowly, "I overheard your phone call." Her eyes widened instantly. Adrian cleared his throat. "I didn't mean to listen," he added quickly. "I was walking past your desk, and I heard you say something." She swallowed hard. What did I say?" He looked directly into her eyes. "You said, 'I'm free tonight, my love.'" Ariana's heart dropped. So he heard everything. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then opened it once more. "I didn't know you were behind me," she whispered. "I know," he said softly. "And I'm not angry." He paused, just a second, but long enough for her to feel the tension in the air. "I'm just," he continued, his voice quieter now, "concerned." Ariana blinked. "Concerned?" "Yes," he said. "You've been working so much. You never take breaks. You hardly talk to anyone. And suddenly hearing you sounding so different made me wonder." There was truth in his words, but she could sense more behind them. Something deeper he wasn't admitting yet. Ariana took a slow breath. "Sir, I think there's a misunderstanding." Adrian's heart stopped. "A misunderstanding?" he repeated carefully. She nodded. "I wasn't talking to a boyfriend or a man." Adrian's jaw clenched slightly before he could hide it. "Then who?" "It was my little sister," Ariana said softly. "She's 8 years old." Adrian froze. Ariana continued, smiling lightly with embarrassment. "She calls me my love because she thinks it sounds fancy. I don't know where she learned it, but she likes using it. And she gets excited when I say it back." Adrian stared at her, stunned. Relief flooded him so strongly that he had to look away for a moment. All that jealousy, all that worry, all that curiosity was over a child. He let out a slow, deep breath he didn't realize he had been holding. Ariana watched him closely. "Are you okay, sir?" she asked gently. He looked back at her, his eyes softer than she had ever seen. "Yes," he said quietly. "More than okay." Their eyes held for a moment too long. Something warm. Something new. Something neither of them dared to describe yet. Finally, he spoke again, voice steady but gentle. "Thank you for telling me." Ariana nodded. "Of course." As she turned to leave, Adrian stopped her. "Ariana." She looked back. He hesitated, then gave a small, genuine smile, the first real smile she had ever seen from him. You have a beautiful way of speaking to the people you care about, he said softly. It was nice to hear. Ariana felt her heart flutter unexpectedly. Thank you, sir, she whispered. And then she left his office, leaving the billionaire behind with a heartbeat he couldn't calm. For the first time, Adrian realized something shocking. He didn't just notice her. He wanted to know everything about her. And he wasn't going to ignore that feeling anymore. For the next few days, his behavior changed in quiet but clear ways. He stopped sending messages to her through Nathan. Instead, he called her into his office himself. But not only to give orders. Ariana, did you have breakfast? Ariana, are you taking your lunch break? Ariana, did you get home safe yesterday? At first, she didn't know how to react. No one had ever cared about these things at work. Especially not the billionaire CEO. One afternoon, she was eating a simple homemade lunch at her desk, rice in a small plastic container, when his voice came from behind her. You're eating here? He asked. She jumped a little. Oh, yes, sir. I didn't want to take too long in the cafeteria. He looked at the food. It was simple, but well prepared. Come eat in the conference room, he said. Her eyes grew wide. In the conference room? Sir, I can't. That's for people, he interrupted gently. You are one. She almost laughed, but the seriousness in his voice stopped her. There was no joke. No mockery.
He meant it.
She followed him, carrying her lunch nervously. He didn't sit at the head of the table like in meetings. Instead, he sat beside her, leaving a respectful space between them. He had ordered food from a nearby restaurant. The table held a glass plate with grilled chicken and vegetables. Won't this disturb your work? She asked. Sometimes, he replied, the most important work is not on the computer. She tilted her head. What do you mean? He looked at her, really looked. I want to know the people who give this company their time, he said softly. Especially when they give it with a sincere heart. Her chest felt warm at his words.
No one had ever spoken to her like that.
Tell me about yourself, Ariana, he said. If you're comfortable. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Well, I live with my aunt and my little sister Lily, she began. My parents passed away years ago, so I help take care of the house. Lily is in primary school. She's a handful. She smiled fondly. She loves calling everyone my love. He smiled too. I see that. And, I'm still paying off some debts from school, she added, voice quieter now. So I try to save as much as I can. That's why I don't go out much. Adrian listened carefully, his eyes never leaving her face. No friends, he asked gently. Just a few, she said. But they're busy. Life is full for everyone. She shrugged a little. It's okay. I'm used to being on my own. Something about that sentence hit him hard. Used to being on my own. He didn't like it. You shouldn't have to be, he said in a low voice. She looked at him, surprised, but didn't know what to say. They ate in comfortable silence for a few moments. For the first time, Adrian saw that she didn't eat fast. She took small, neat bites, as if she was always careful not to be a bother, even to her own food. He wondered how many things in life she had done quietly, without anyone ever clapping for her. In the days that followed, their rhythm changed completely. He started greeting her every morning. Good morning, Ariana. Did you sleep well? How is Lily? Her heart always did a small flip when he mentioned her sister's name. Sometimes, during a short break, he would stand near her desk and ask small questions. What do you like to do on weekends? Do you read? Do you like movies? She answered shyly at first, then more comfortably. I like to draw sometimes. I read romance novels when I can. I love those old movies where people fall in love slowly. He remembered that. Fall in love slowly. Inside him, something agreed. That was exactly what was happening. One evening, the office began to empty. Lights turned off one by one as staff went home. Ariana stayed back to finish arranging a file cabinet. She hummed softly to herself, thinking no one was listening. But Adrian, still in his office, heard her. He stepped into the hallway and watched her for a moment. She looked peaceful, moving carefully, her soft hum mixing with the quiet air. A warm light from the ceiling fell gently on her face. He felt a sudden, strong urge to walk up to her, hold her hand, and tell her everything. How she had become the only person he looked for in the building. How her voice had affected him more than the loudest meetings. How jealousy had opened his eyes, but kindness had captured his heart. He took a deep breath and walked forward. "Ariana," he called. She turned around, her hands still resting on a folder. "Oh, sir, I'm almost done. I'll lock up soon." "You're still here," he said softly. "Everyone else is gone." She smiled a little. "I know. I just wanted to finish this section. It makes tomorrow easier." He nodded slowly, then spoke before his courage could disappear.
"Come with me," he said.
"Just for a few minutes."
Her heart jumped.
"To where?" He gave a small, gentle smile. "You'll see." They ended up outside, in the small rooftop garden of the building. Most employees didn't even know it existed. It was quiet, with a few benches and plants, a soft wind moving through the leaves. The city lights spread out below them like stars on the ground. Ariana looked around in wonder. "I didn't know this place was here," she said. "I don't bring many people here," Adrian replied. She glanced at him. "Why bring me?" He turned to face her fully. The wind brushed against his suit and her hair, making the moment feel like a scene from the kind of slow love movie she liked. "Because," he said slowly, "you're not like many people." Her breath caught. "Ariana," he continued, his eyes holding hers, "when I heard you say, 'I'm free tonight, my love,' that morning, I felt something I didn't understand at first." She lowered her eyes, remembering. "I was so embarrassed when I realized you heard that." "You shouldn't be," he said. "Your voice, the way you spoke, it made me realize something." She looked up again, her heart beating fast. "I realized," he said quietly, "that I didn't like the idea of someone else being the reason you smiled like that." Her chest tightened. "I was jealous," he admitted. "Over a phone call. Over a word. Over you." Her lips parted slightly in surprise. "I told myself it was nothing," he went on. "That you were just an employee. That it was unprofessional to think about you after work. But I did. I thought about you all day. All night. Every time I walked past your desk, my heart reacted before my head could stop it." He took a small step closer. "I care about your work," he said. "But somewhere along the way, I started to care about you more." Ariana's throat felt tight. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not with such honesty. Not with such respect. "And after you told me about your sister," he added, a tiny smile appearing, "I felt relief. But also something else." "What?" she whispered. "Hope," he said simply. Silence fell over them. But it was not empty. It was full. Full of unsaid feelings, shared glances, soft breaths, and pounding hearts. "I don't want to be just your boss anymore, Ariana," Adrian said quietly. "If you'll allow it, I want to be the man who never makes you feel invisible again." Her eyes filled with gentle tears, not of sadness, but of emotion. "All my life," she said softly, "I've been easy to overlook. At school. At work. Even in my own family sometimes. I never thought someone like you would ever really see me." He reached out slowly, giving her enough time to step back if she wanted. She didn't. His fingers lightly brushed hers, then held her hand gently. "I see you," he said, his voice deep but soft. "More clearly than I've seen anything in a long time." A small, trembling smile formed on her lips. He took a breath. "Ariana Blake," he said, "can I take you out?"
"Not as your CEO."
Not as the man in the glass office, but as Adrian, a man who has somehow fallen for the quiet woman who thinks she doesn't stand out, but has become the center of his world. She laughed softly through the tears that threatened to spill. "You're really saying all this?" she whispered. "Yes," he answered simply. "Every word." She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of a game, a trick, a lie. There was none. Only honesty. Only warmth. Only him. Her heart made a decision before her mind finished thinking. "I'm free tonight," she said softly, the same words he had heard days ago, but this time different. "But only for you." Something bright lit up in his eyes. He squeezed her hand gently. Then, tonight, let me start proving that you were never meant to stay invisible. They stood there for a moment, under the open sky, with the city lights glowing below and the cool air brushing against their faces. Two people who had started as strangers in the same building. One too quiet to be noticed. One too busy to look closely. Now standing side by side. A billionaire, and the woman he almost overlooked. Until one phone call, one simple sentence, turned jealousy into realization. And realization into love. They walked back toward the elevator together, not as a boss and an employee, but as something new. Not perfect yet, but real. A story just beginning. A love that had finally found its way. That brings us to the end of this video. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.